Well, congratulations. How are you feeling right now?
Thank you, Amy. I feel great. Yeah, I feel really good. I finally have calmed down, so I feel good.
When you say calm down, what were the emotions back there?
High levels of joy, which is really cool. I don't remember the last time I felt that level of like pure like joy. And it was nice. It was nice. It was overwhelming. And I let it pass through, and now I feel I'm back to calm.
What were those emotions connected to? Was it the fact that you beat Anthony Smith? Was it the fact that you beat Anthony Smith the way you did? Or was it just the win in general or something else?
I think it was more of the feeling of the amount of hard work, hard work paying off again. It was that on top of beating Anthony Smith, a tough guy, a guy who, no matter what, there was always a level of respect from my end. The caliber of fight, I think everything, but it all mostly comes down to just the hard work that I put in and day out, and the way that it's been for the past year now. And it finally paid off again, and it just made me extremely happy.
You mentioned respect on your end. Do you feel like the respect was given back to you, or is that something maybe you just didn't get a chance to?
I didn't watch, and I usually don't watch interviews or anything. And even people who are close to me and my friends know I don't do the he said, she said type of thing. But sometimes out of excitement, they won't tell me exactly what's said, but they'll say like, oh, this guy doesn't respect you, or with things like that. So I don't know anything like personally, but from, I guess, the gossip, it was just like, I think that this guy doesn't have the level of respect for you that he should. That's just kind of what I heard. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter to me because this guy is 37 and 18. And for me, that gains my respect already. So if I have to fight hard, I fight hard. But yeah, I think after the fact, it was great. I'm glad that we were able to really shake hands, and he congratulated me, and I think it was great. So I think that now the respect is mutual.
On that note, when he lost to Johnny Walker, a lot of people were thinking that he was about to retire. People thought he did retire. People thought he should retire. I know it's never a place for anybody else to decide when a fighter should retire, but what's your opinion on his longevity in the sport and how long he can last still now that you've been in the cage with him?
The guy can last forever. I mean, he can fight 10 more fights if he wants to. I think that this could have been a much different fight for him had he had a full camp, But he lived up to his name and took a fight against me on 10 days' notice. So it obviously doesn't look good to get another loss, but given the circumstances, I mean, not what do you expect, but like, don't be too surprised, right? So, yeah, give him a full camp against someone else. I think he's still got a fight in him. I think he just probably maybe bring some new people in the corner. Like I'm not talking about coaches, but circle of influence. Some people around you that are going to encourage you and encourage him and bring out the best in him, because the skill's there, the experience is there. He's not old, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, I think the guy can keep fighting for sure.
Was there anything about him that surprised you in there?
Not necessarily, I expected that he'd be tough. He said he was going to put the pressure. I'd say I was more surprised at. I expected like more output. I expected maybe more takedown attempts, more trying to get me against the cage and make it not dirty, but like, you know what I mean? Like kind of make it more of a rough fight. So that was where the surprise was, is that it didn't really go, I guess, the way that I thought it was going to go. But nothing that he did was necessarily like surprising.
You called out Alex, and I'm wondering how much of that call out was because he's the man holding the belt and how much because it was Alex.
I think that him having the belt, he deserves a belt, right? The guy works hard. Middleweight champion, former middleweight champion, now light heavyweight champion. I think that it's a mixture of both. But the reason why, and I don't ever call people out, you guys, I don't think you guys have any record of me ever calling anybody out. But in my mind, knowing that if I beat Anthony Smith, that would get me into the top 10. And I know that the way that the rankings kind of work, if I fought and I'm just 12, or I just know that, like, I have to be in the top 10 to even be worthy of fighting for a title. Now, when I look at, say I get number 10, say they put me at number 10 and not 8 where Anthony was. Okay, so from 9 up, in my opinion, and I think in the fans' opinion, the most exciting fight would be me versus Pereira. And, you know, that's just what I've seen from like comments, things like that. After Alex's win, I got flooded with like, people tagging me and things. And I'm like, I think it makes sense. Two dynamic strikers, powerful strikers. I don't plan to shoot any takedowns. I don't think I've ever shot for a takedown in my career. I don't think that he's necessarily going to shoot for any takedowns because the guy's a warrior. So then you have two explosive, dynamic. Now me being in the top 10, it just, you know, in my mind, it's just like career, it makes sense. You know what I mean? And I'm putting in the work every day, and I'm prepared for anything, you know? I'm not saying like, this is what I want now, give it to me now. But I think that it would make sense. And that's kind of where I stand, you know?
How long are you willing to wait for that fight? If they said, hey, it's going to be a year, would you want to fight and potentially risk losing and lose that chance? Or would you be willing to sit for a year to fight him?
I'm not sitting for a year. I need money. I got to make money, you know what I mean? I don't really know why I would have to sit for a year. If they said 6 months or whatever, like, I'm ready whenever, right? If they said whenever, okay. If that's the fight, okay. If it's something besides that fight, then, to be honest, I miss Thailand with my whole heart. I haven't been there in almost 3 years now. So I'd like to take small vacation, but not if there's a title fight on the line. You know what I mean? So if it's anything outside of that fight, let's run it whenever. But there's also that other side of me where I'm like, okay, like, it would be nice. I've been training a full year nonstop. It would be nice to take a little break, but I'm not hung up on that. You know, I'm still focused. I'm still on the highway. So.
And last one for me, would you ever have imagined, you know, when you were weighing in at RFA in a sports bar, you know, with people eating their fish and chips, that you would ever be here talking about your path to a UFC title?
I had very, very high hopes and ambition back then. I knew that when I was in the RFA, I was doing it for a reason. I wanted to get to the UFC. I believed I was the best. You know, I think I was young and I was like, yeah, knockout. I trained with Anderson Silva, you know, like things like that. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a UFC champion. But I had no idea how hard it is and how much work and effort it takes every day to actually be able to be worthy of sitting in a seat like this and on a win streak and things like that. So I had a little bit of it like imagined it, but I didn't fathom it at all. Like I wasn't even close to, putting in the amount of work it takes to get here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Khalil.
What up?
I just wanted to ask you, were more leg kicks part of the game plan? Because I noticed that you weren't really kicking his legs a whole lot, and his last few fights, he's been really susceptible. Is that word?
Yeah.
To leg kicks.
Yeah.
What was up with that?
I don't know what was up with it. Because one of the first things that I said to John Wood after, I was like, I should have kicked the legs more. So I knew that the opportunities would be there. I practiced a lot of low kicks this camp. I practiced a lot of kicks in general this camp. It's just a part of what I do. But things were just different when you're standing in there with Anthony Smith, I didn't necessarily want to take any crazy chances. Getting kicks checked hurts. So it only takes one or two checks, just like it only takes one or two leg kicks to actually start to feel the pain. So, I think that the way that I fought tonight was really so that I can just stay in control of just like the vision of like having my hand raised and not really taking any big damage that I know could have happened. And the best way to do that tonight was with hands and movement and a little bit of kicks threading, but not to over abuse the kick.
There was this narrative coming into this fight, and I don't know, could you say you didn't really read a lot of stuff, but there was a narrative that said that Khalil can be inconsistent. Khalil doesn't show up for big fights. Now that you showed up for a big fight and you knocked out Anthony Smith, does it feel nice to shut people up?
I don't think people will ever shut up. And I think after this fight, there's going to be people that still don't believe and that still have bad things to say. I've just come to acceptance with that. There's always going to be a large percentage of people that have just really shit opinions. You know what I mean? And it's like, the thing that sucks too, and to be quite honest, like, obviously, it's about me, so there can be a little bit of truth to it, because there has been times in the past where I wasn't consistent and I didn't show up for big fights. So if I read things like that, I'm like, eh. And that's why I don't read things like that. I just like keep doing what I'm doing. I cannot, as much as I love the people, I have to create a huge separation because I care about people too much. And sometimes like opinions can really have like, I can let them have too much effect on me, So the way that I accept it is just like, there's always going to be shit opinions. You know what I mean? And there's always going to be, until the day that I'm done fighting, there's always going to be a gigantic portion of MMA fans that just don't believe in me or just don't like me for whatever reason. And I just have to be okay with that. And I have to continue to do what I do for myself and for my loved ones. And the ones that do support me and are cheering for me, man, I love them to death, because they could so easily be on the other end. So my dedicated fans and like my dedicated like supporters and people who have been following, they're the best, man.
I asked you a couple of fights ago, but I wanted you to kind of reflect. 2020, you were thinking about maybe retirement. It was in there. It was in your thought process. Now, fast forward, you're going to be in the top 10 on Tuesday. Like, can you kind of like put into words like just the whole fight kind of full circle right now?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I answered earlier with Amy, like the same thing that I said a little bit about Smith. I think that I had to make some changes in my personal circle, to be able to show me that, nah, dude, you're not done. You know what I mean? I think that environment has a lot to do with just decisions like that, or if you don't have self-belief, or you feel like, you know what, this is something that I love, but I want to hang it up. I'd say like 9 times out of the 10, like check your environment. You know what I mean? Like check who's around you, check your influence. You know, where is this coming from? So I think around that time, like I was kind of alone in Thailand training. I loved Muay Thai, and I think a part of that retirement came from I wasn't able to compete in Muay Thai because of my UFC contract, but I had the opportunity and I had the connections to be able to fight for a WBC belt at Rajadamnern Stadium against the super heavyweight, and I'm like, this is amazing. I just get to fight in a Thai stadium, in the Thai stadium. Forget the contract right now, you know, like that's kind of, it was like, I was more drawn to like, I get to be in the place that I love with my whole heart and train and fight in the sport and the martial art that changed my entire life. So, but I didn't have many people that were just like, nah, dude, you're not done with the UFC, until I had phone calls with, you know, Lorenzo and John, and they're like, come back, you got a good shot at this. I think I even saw like John in Abu Dhabi. He's like, you should come back. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it had to do with influence, but I'm glad that I made the decision to come back to the States and take this seriously.
You explained your call out of Alex Pereira. Also, obviously, you want to fight him because it's exciting for the championship, but also is there like a little thing in your back of your head where like, I've already knocked out one Glory heavyweight or Glory champion, I can do it again?
I don't think that that thought never crossed my mind. Like I've said right after I even mentioned the guy's name, it's nothing but respect, man. Really. Like it's not I don't approach this in a sense of like, I'm better and you, no, dude, not at all. You know what I mean? Like I know that he is just as skilled as everybody says. And I'm at a point right now where if people are watching me fight, I want them to see the best version of me, you know? And the way to do that is to put me against another striker to where then you can see what, you know, then you can see two guys strike. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, like, it's more about that, you know? I don't think about necessarily, like, what I've done in the past and all this stuff. I just think it's like, it would be really, really, really cool to fight the best in the division, best in the world at light heavyweight in Las Vegas, where I'm from, and potentially win the belt in Las Vegas with a Las Vegas crowd. And then be able to say, like, UFC has a local champion. Like, you know, that's more of how my mind makes it versus, and it just so happens that, you know, Alex Pereira and the champion, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a mixture. It's nothing like directly personal. It's just circumstantial. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Khalil over here.
Yo.
Given what you just said there about Las Vegas and what you said at the cage, this is your home of the UFC, needs to be a champion from here. Given your connection to the city, can you expand a bit more on what it would mean to you if you brought that light heavyweight championship in 2024 to the city of Las Vegas?
Man, so when I first decided, I've spoken about it in my past, and I haven't really brought it up in a long time, since the time I had a kind of a explosion meltdown in the cage or after. When I decided to start training mixed martial arts, 19 to 20, I made the decision to join a gym March 1st, 2010, so 20. When I would have to drive to the gym, 300 pounds, still smoking cigarettes, still depressed, I would have to drive down the 15, and I'd always see the UFC billboard. And as I started to get more familiar with MMA and UFC, that's something that I've seen so many times, and that was something that I looked at, the motivation. Whatever pay-per-view, it's right there off the 15 by the Palace Station. So that was a part of my motivation to stay dedicated to MMA and to changing my life and to have something to even look forward to in this city. This city, at the time, for me growing up as a youth, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. There wasn't anything going on here that gave us a reason to dream. We didn't know what to do. You know, like we didn't have colleges, and we didn't walk the streets, and we didn't have people who were like, oh yeah, this is a lawyer. We didn't have the things that a lot of other cities do have, because Vegas is just a very different city. People come here to gamble and things like that. So being a young kid from here, I'd imagine that at the time that I was growing up, it's pretty hard to know what you want to do or what you want to be. So I think that, like, and I'm very thankful for the UFC, because when I saw that, it gave me hope. And so, you know, I would always tell myself, like, one day I'm going to be on that billboard, and then when I'm driving down, I'm going to see myself there. And then things started happening, and I stayed towards that vision, and then I got into the Ultimate Fighter, and then I remember one of the challenges was right next to the billboard in the Palace Station and like the dunk tank, and I'm just like, okay, I'm getting closer. You know, I'm getting closer to what I said I'm going to do. One day I'm going to be on that billboard. One day I'm going to be on that billboard. So I think that, like, it would mean a lot, man. It would mean a lot, because then that would mean that 20-year-old suicidal, just depressed guy who needed something to look forward to, I would see that, and that kind of, it hits a certain spot. You know what I mean? And I get to, and I get to look back and be like, I did it. You know? I did it.
Congratulations.
Mic drop.